of Rudy. Most of you, as I've said before, probably, I think there may be 2 or 3 people here that actually met him, spent time around him. And most people basically, know about him because they're practicing this double breathing exercise, which he developed and passed on to us. When you do spiritual practice, there's a lineage. You have teachers to be grateful for. I have Rudy, I have Nityananda, I have Kala Rinpoche, and a number of other teachers that I find very deep in my heart who truly have helped me through, the struggles of what it is to have a spiritual life. And of course, primary amongst them is Rudy, who basically saw a kid, looking in the window of his gallery, drew him in the door, and transformed his life, completely transformed his life. I have to have nothing but gratitude, and I have to have nothing but a sense of service, because of that gratitude, of saying thank you to somebody. And as he once said to me, lip service gratitude doesn't really mean anything. It has to be through your actions, through what one contributes to life, to situations, with an open heart and with unconditional love and with a true sense of surrender to God and allowing the energy of God to guide their life. I learned this from Rudy. And it's something I thought about even years before I met him, but had no capacity or understanding or anything in how to do it, how to make that incredible, idea into something practical in my day-to-day living. And it was Rudy, and it didn't happen instantly. It happened over years of being marinated in the Shakti, of allowing the Shakti to build a system inside me that was strong enough to be able to do what I'm talking about. I don't expect people to do this, instantly. I really don't. And it's a matter of being nurtured. It's a matter of commitment. It's a matter of truly understanding. Even in, a good bottle of wine has to sit for years before it develops a great bouquet. And this is no different. This is no different. We have to marinate in the Shakti. We have to allow it to go deeply inside us. We have to allow it to truly transform us inside so that we bring a different level of life to the people we love, to our family, to friendships, to the people that we do business with or work for every day. Our capacity grows inside. And it's something that I rationally and intellectually understood when I was younger. I had no ability to make it into a practical way of living. First step was when I met Rudy. And when I met him, God bless, I was ready to either put myself in a sanitarium or I didn't know what I just didn't know what I was going to do. My life was so chaotic and all over the place. I remember I had a friend who I met him in Mexico, and he's an artist, and he and his wife moved to San Francisco, and he wrote me a letter, and he said, come out to San Francisco. I know all the poets out here, and they're going to love your work. They're going to love what you do. You're going to make a very big hit with the kind of writings that you write. He told me this, and he wrote me this long letter. And I told him, sounds great. I don't really have much in New York. I will make plans pretty quickly to go out there. The next day I met Rudy. Next day. And there are no accidents in life. God was saying, Stuart, it's enough of your bullshit. I'm going to put somebody in your life that can really change it. And he did. And then I wrote this friend of mine, and a letter saying, look, I met somebody who I think is going to be very important in my life, and I think I can learn a great deal from. And at this time, I cannot leave New York. So I apologize. I'm sorry. I thank you for what you want to do. I mean, he was talking about, all those beat poets and Ginsberg and McClure and all those guys, that he wanted to introduce me to. And the funniest thing of all is, years later, I was in Dallas with Rudy, and we were sitting there having coffee with Allen Ginsberg. And Allen Ginsberg said to Rudy, they knew each other in New York. He said, Rudy, I didn't know you were into all of this, that you were on this kind of level and all of this. And I'll never forget, Rudy said to him, Allen, I never told you because I didn't think you were ready for it. Kind of blew my socks away. I mean, Allen Ginsberg, chanting and praying and Tibetan Buddhism and everything else. And he simply and quietly said, I didn't think you were ready to learn the kind of things that I teach. So, you never know how life works for you, and you can't think about it. You just have to be grateful. And I just cannot tell you the kind of gratitude I have in my heart for that moment that I met Rudy. For somebody who cared enough, to help me change and grow and get closer to God. It's all I wanted when I was younger. It's a great miracle, and his samadhi is not a time of mourning. It's not a time of feeling sorrow. It's a time of rejoicing because we're all here to one day attain samadhi. We're all here to one day become one with God. And this whole thing about life and death and termination, and I mean, it's something that it's just a thing that exists in the mind that people create in order to drive themselves crazy. Because once you make that kind of commitment, there's no longer life, there's no longer death. I shouldn't say that everything is life, including death is life. And that samadhi is a oneness with God, with everything in the universe, higher energy in the universe. So Wednesday is a day, very important day in my life. I mean, for God's sake, I survived a plane crash. And I also knew that that survival had to have a deeper meaning than just, I'm going to get another 10 years of life. It had to mean that I no longer had a life that was my own. It all had to be in service of God. So it's a special day. And as I say, it's not a day for mourning, for remorse, for lamentation. It's a day to rejoice. I mean, the best thing any of you can do for me is learn what I have to teach so that I can attain the state of samadhi. I don't have to come back here anymore and do this. God knows, come back here and do another 30, 50 years of Zoom. I don't think that's enough to make me work very hard to finally get free of all of this. And we all go through it. I mean, look, I learned my father didn't attain samadhi, but he did attain a certain state of grace when he passed on. Because I had never seen him that way. I walked into his hospital room and he was lying in the bed, and I had never seen him so peaceful. I had never seen like light in his eyes. I could look a million miles in his eyes. I never saw so much light around him. The room was full of, light. And although he wasn't a spiritual man, or he did, have a kind of quasi-Jewish nature to him, but he wasn't spiritual. And I remember asking his nurse, what happened in there? She told me, God bless that nurse. To her experience, just before people leave the world, they go into a very deep state of inner peace and surrender. And my thought was, well, why did my father have to wait 49 years to get this for 15 minutes before he left the world? We all have the opportunity to attain that state of grace, that inner peace, to make all the books and talk and everything else, the Bible and the Haggadah, to make it practical, a practical way of living that adapts itself to the kind of life that we have to live today, not to something that happened thousands of years ago. Does anyone have a question?
Stuart, this is Bob Sank. I have a question.
What would I do without you, Bob? No, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Ask your question.
The way that it's like to live in this world, um, why do we have to wait until the last hours before our death to experience that peace?
Bob, that's a question they've been asking for thousands of years. Why? There's no reason for it other than people will get their enlightenment in this lifetime when they are truly ready to do it, when they're truly ready to get their enlightenment. And then, there are no hindrances. So why? I don't understand why, Bob. That was the question I had when I saw my father like that. Why did you have to wait all this time? And it's the question that most people have to ask. Why wait? And as soon as you ask that question, something will happen in your life that will open a door that's a pathway to spiritual enlightenment. I used to ask that question every day. In fact, what happened to my father so changed my life. I mean, when I was a kid, I was a very, very good basketball player. I thought I'd get scholarships and go to college and become a doctor or a lawyer. I became a freaking hippie, a beatnik. I really made it. It completely transformed my life. I said, no, I don't want to live in Scarsdale in a 4-car garage with 12 television sets and white picket fences. I needed to find something of a profounder nature. Well, it didn't make life any easier, I promise you, because the 9 years between then and when I found Rudy were probably 9 of the hardest years I ever lived in my life. But pre-Rudy, I was looking for something, and I was looking for something that was real. I had met so many teachers and did chanting and this and went to ashrams and so much stuff. And I wanted something that was real, that I could relate to as a person living in the 20th century. And that can transform a place like New York City into something sacred. Now, I never believed that was possible until I met Rudy. But the need was real. And yes, I must have tried to run away 50,000 times because I began to realize how difficult this choice was. And I realized that the only reason it was difficult is I was up against one person, myself. And Rudy was a constant reminder to me that I was up against myself. If I could overcome myself, that door would open. That pathway would become full of shining light spirit. That was the difficulty. And it took years for me to learn how to do that. Understand, Stuart, what are you? You know, you're nothing. Everything you are is a manifestation of higher creative energy, God. The gifts you have, you know, the financial success you've had in your life, everything was a gift. Relationships. So I don't know why people wait, other than they're not ready. And it's why I'm a very confirmed and profound believer in reincarnation. Because people have to walk into so many dead ends and hit their head against so many walls until finally they reach a place. It's enough already. I have to do what I have to do to get to God, and everything else is bullshit. And it doesn't mean you don't have a love life, you don't have, you know, success in life, you don't have all the wonderful things that life, you're presented with all those, you have all those wonderful things, but you don't have them as an end in itself. You have them as a test, a teaching. This is not the end in itself. This is another step on a ladder. You have to learn how to live with these things and to be free of these things at exactly the same time. And that makes it possible to really love another human being. You're not attached to them. They don't have to live according to your dictates and how you think life is supposed to be. You love them because of who they are and what they are as human beings. So why people have to wait till the last 15 minutes to, I don't have an answer to that. All I know is that the soul must evolve, the soul must grow, the soul must learn how to transform suffering into spiritual life. And if it takes many, many lifetimes for the soul to learn this, then that's what it takes. Does anyone else have a question they would like to ask? Me a long time to get to the point where whatever I saw going on in this world became a teacher, teaching me what not to do, teaching me how not to live, teaching me what to do, how to live. But it wasn't a teacher until I got big enough not to attach myself to all these things, to just let them be and let them come and show me another step on the path to enlightenment, to a spiritual life. Does anyone else have a question?
Thank you, Stuart.
You're welcome. Great question. Okay, so on Wednesday evening, there will be a special 7:30 my time class in celebration of Rudy Samadhi. I hope you all can make it. Those of you that don't live too far from here, I don't expect people to fly in here from Oregon, you know. But if you live, you know, there will be a class here in person tomorrow at 10 o'clock in the morning, and probably we'll be having classes almost every day, you know, this week, except for maybe Thursday, because then I have a double header. And then the weekend we have the retreat, so there won't be those classes, but there'll be Tuesday and Wednesday And probably Friday, I'll have classes here in person. If you want to come and you can make it here, you're more than welcome. Then the weekend is the retreat. So thank you, and God bless you all. And I can't tell you how grateful I am to just be here and to do this with all of you. So bless you all. Thank you. And there will be a class on Wednesday evening, and I'm looking forward to seeing everyone.
Thank you, Stuart.
Thank you, Stuart. Good night.
Thank you.
Good night. Thank
Thank
you.
you, Stuart.
Good night.